Hi, everyone. It's Lilac. Welcome to the Lilac Room, or at least to my home, which is where I broadcast from now, my home. Thanks so much for stopping by. Obviously, you've come to join me for a hot beverage and a fireside chat. I don't have a fireside, but I am in a comfy, casual spot. And if I could put a fireplace just here to my right, I would. In fact, I've been thinking about putting a fireplace right there. Just a little tidbit. So, I don't think I'm an incredibly boring person, but maybe I can be at times. So, I'm not sure. However, I received, a couple of people that I know do these annual update letters or cards, I guess. Some of them do cards. I send out my Christmas cards, but I've never sent out an update letter or card or anything like that. And I thought I could do it in my own unique lilac broom kind of way, which is to vlog, which is video blogging. If you don't know what vlogging is, VLOG. I started vlogging back in the early 2000s, even before my son was born, and he was born in '08. So I would say I did some vlogging from maybe 2004 onward. So that's what we're doing. We're using my usual platform of the Lilac Room, and this is more just kind of an update video. But I will be doing maybe some card reading as well. I do have a brand new deck of cards here and a lovely handmade and hand-painted case for my new deck of cards. It is just awesome. It's beautiful and personal. It's just exactly the kind of thing that sets the tone for everything I want to talk about today. Now, I'm doing this as a live, not for any reason in particular. Nobody needs to join in live when it's happening, but for me, it's more about data storage. So since I don't really have a convenient way to store and upload data, it's just easier for me to go live. And I've always been the kind of person who, when just put in front of a camera or an audience, could just speak from the hip without over creating the content, basically, of what I plan on saying, which is something I love about the tarot community. So big shout out to everybody out there who does these kinds of, on the spot readings and just talks from the heart as you go. It's not an easy thing to do. It really does take special practice and ability, and you have to have the gift for reading the tarot cards, which can just come from experience. It is not necessarily a magical gift that you have to have. Everybody's got different layers upon which they build their messages, but I think it is a really important time for a message. Let's start with a personal message about my life, shall we? I have a flood of thoughts about December 2022 into December 2023. So I'm basically talking about this past calendar year, December 2022 to December 2023. To begin with, December 1st of 2022, I started a new job. Some of you never even realized I had taken a new job, and I tend to be quiet about the movements I'm making in my life. But the backstory, for anybody who cares, is that I had been working in property management for most of my, time since 2016, I would say. So on or about mid 2016, I started working in property management, and I did that right up until things started shutting down everywhere because of COVID. So in 2021, I took just an administrative full-time job with Alert Ambulance. And that was, a jumping off point for me. I thought, okay, I can get out of, property management, which I was kind of tired of doing, 48 years old. I'd been doing it for a long time. I'd been doing it straight since 2016, but you have to understand the reason that I went back into property management several times was simply because I was good at it and I had a background in it, and, openings presented themselves. So that is the reason why I spent so much time in property management. Not because I loved it. Was I good at it? Yeah. Yeah, I managed to make a name for myself. And then I changed my name in 2016 when I got married. And I, gave up my business known name of Angel Van Geisen. And I became Angel Carroll at that time. So, so a lot of you probably don't realize that this past summer, I left my husband and I'm no longer going to be married. So, we're working on a proper divorce at this time, but we're separated. Some of you may not know that. Now, 2021 to 2022, I worked at Alert Ambulance. But in 2022, December 1st, I began a new position, and it is one that I now just celebrated my 1 year anniversary in. And I can honestly say that the year flew by. So I don't know where that year went. There was so much excitement, and it is such an exciting place to work. And the kind of work I do there is so engaging, I guess, that this year has just flown by. And I find myself reflecting, now on it, day after Christmas 2023. And I'm just here reflecting on this whole entire year and what it has been like and how I've changed and what is coming, in the year ahead. Now, keep in mind, we overgeneralize a year, because we're built around a calendar system. But we're going to use that calendar system to benefit us as much as humanly possible. It's something that we all understand, and it gives us a vantage point. That being said, I'm a huge fan of the solstices and of the new year. Maybe I'm programmed, I don't know, but I love making New Year's resolutions. In fact, I am sitting in front of a mindfulness journal and I have colored pencils and everything. And that journal was given to me by one of my colleagues at work. And, the truth is that I take this stuff seriously. And I think that some people know that for me, what I wish to manifest, I actually put the effort and thought into. I let it be a driving factor for what I'm creating for the upcoming year. And something that I put into motion during my trip out to see my best friend Erica last year in January, during this same exact winter break, maybe fast forward a week ago last year, and I was in Texas. And that was when all the profound changes really started. It wasn't because of where I was, it was because it was a moment in time where I knew that changes needed to happen in my life. And I'd been dancing around those changes for quite a while. And I found myself in a moment with my best friend. A best friend is a person who knows you better than anybody, right? And that person should know how to help trigger you into real growth. And mine does. My best friend does know how to do that. And hopefully that is a two-way situation. Hopefully we both can do that for each other. And it doesn't have to be a best friend that triggers you. It could be a complete stranger. It doesn't have to be anybody in particular who starts your spiritual engine revving, who gets you to the next level. And it might not even be just one person. It could just be that there are steps that get taken one after the other. But when I was out visiting her in Texas last year, not to share too much of our intimate conversations or anything, but there was a moment where she asked me in all earnestness what I really wanted. What do you really want, Angel? What do you actually really want? Because it often sounds like you're saying, I want this and I want that. And it's just the shallow version of whatever it is you want. It's just the surface level, and the universe doesn't really respond to that. It's too fickle. It doesn't mean enough. It doesn't explain wholeheartedly what you're trying to do. So you have to be more specific, you know. So I got really specific, I remember. And I think the moment that I felt it, like something changed in that moment. It was like that movie Big with Tom Hanks from back in the 80s. There was like this moment where things just clicked. In that movie, some magic happens and he transforms into like a kid. But for me, that moment was like a certainty, a feeling of absolute certainty that some message was received by the universe from me, and that I was heard for sure. You were definitely heard. So, I came home from that trip early January. Things, I got home from that trip right in time to go back to work after winter vacation. I think probably a day before. I was used to doing things that way because everything just kind of felt numb. I'd been numb for quite a long time at that point. And my first month back, my first few weeks, so January, returning to a brand new job that I really didn't know all that well, was a big turning point for me, during which time there were other just personal changes that were happening as a result of my conversation with the universe, my telling the universe, this is what I really, really want. And this is that time of year again for really acknowledging our desires deeply and recognizing that it's a good time to cast our intentions for the upcoming year. Hopefully that makes sense to you. I know I was a little general. Don't really feel like talking about all of my personal wishes here on Facebook, or on YouTube or on Instagram, because we know these platforms share data. And so I want to make sure that the audience that's hearing what I have to say is going to use it for their own benefit, not just to hear what I have to say, because who cares what happened in my life? But I can tell you that I do feel happier than I've felt in many, many years. And I feel like a completely revitalized version of myself. Um, you know, I think I got what I set out for last year. And I got it along the way. It's not like, oh, I unwrapped that present under the tree this year. No, I didn't. It wasn't a present under the tree. I got lots of lovely gifts, but really the gift I had this year was just knowing that the people that I sat in front of my Christmas tree with this year genuinely, truly love me. They love me, they respect me, they want what's best for me. We have a life together, and it's a good thing. And there's no reason to be sad for anybody who chooses not to sit with you in front of your Christmas tree. It's really hard to understand that, isn't it? I mean, I worry all the time. I worry that my children will be sad to a point that they can't recover because there's so much to be sad about in the world and so many things that can trigger us to take our lives or to ruin ourselves in some way through drugs or through alcohol addiction or through a series of bad life choices or through disconnecting relationships that are actually really important or valuable in our lives. There's so many ways that we can sabotage ourselves. For me, I was sabotaging myself for a long, long time by staying in um, a life that did not suit me. I'll just say it that way. a life that did not suit me, a life that was zapping me of my energy. It was hindering my ability to grow, and it was definitely stealing the moments of joy and happiness that are so precious in life because they are so fleeting and so brief. And anybody who has lost people that they really, really love and care about, you probably understand that better than anybody else. So if you haven't been in that situation where you've lost someone you really cared about and you cannot undo that, you may not understand fully, but try to understand, because what I have learned in my 49 years now of living is that one minute something doesn't seem all that important to you, and the next minute it's like it meant everything. But the moment is gone and you can't take it back. And where do you go from there? Regret is a difficult thing to cope with. It's something new for me. It's new for me to actually acknowledge regrets and really sit with that and really recognize that I have any. So, so here's to us. Here's to 2024 becoming a very powerful year for change in many ways, in many avenues, and many outlets in life, but hopefully to us internally as people. One of my New Year's resolutions is going to be to start adding Sambuca to my coffee, because I just don't care if anybody doesn't like Sambuca. I like it. I like Italian coffee. I want to make my coffee taste like that. It has to have that licorice kick, or else, am I really even enjoying myself? I don't know. Um, if you've lasted this long to hear about Lilac's lives, I sound like I'm a cat, but Lilac's life, I guess. There will be card reading. I do promise that. I want my page to always be about spirituality, about our personal growth, about how to make your life better, about why to even listen to me at all. Why should you listen to me? Well, let me think of a few reasons why you might listen to me. I've struggled a lot this year. I've struggled a lot, and I've learned to lean on friends who really care, family members who are open to it, and myself. I've really learned to listen to my own inner voice and say, I think that this is what's best for me, and that's okay. Whether it's cutting off relationships that don't serve us anymore, or letting go of family members who are controlling us through guilt, or worse, um, you know, letting go of friendships that don't really hold any value in our lives except for status or something of such a low vibration that it's just not worth holding on to. Being able to acknowledge and recognize that there are important people in our lives that have been doing their own growing, and maybe we haven't been in touch with them. Even family members, maybe we haven't been in touch with them, but people do grow and change, and it's usually a good idea to give them a second look whenever they pop back up into your sphere. Just a little tip. I know I've had a few friends reconnect with me this year, and it's been really nice to reconnect. Um, so something I've been listening to on YouTube, some things I've been listening to this year. I've been listening to my usual suspects, my usual tarot, astrology, horoscope, spiritualism. I'm still listening to a lot of that. Eckhart Tolle still has a place there that's important to me. Still feel Kabbalah is pertinent to our lives. I still think Christianity isn't pertinent to my life. I still think Catholicism is not pertinent. Judaism, none of the religions out there are pertinent to my perspective on things. So as you listen to my tarot readings, I will use words like creator, divine, universe. I am not speaking about God. I am not speaking in those terms. As far as like communicating with our crossed over loved ones, I think that the veil remains thin. And I think that more people are having experiences that they want to talk about or explore or are open to understanding in ways that don't pertain to any religion or belief about God. So I remain optimistic about that as I give messages, people can benefit from them. Um, I didn't necessarily have any messages to bring forward now, aside from I feel a general like lightness between the spirit world and our earthbound world, where it's almost fluid at this point. It's like spirit energy kind of comes and goes and ebbs and flows within our physical arena, as so long as we allow it to. Whether we choose it or not, it's going to be there. You may pick up on it, you may not, depending on how cloaked are you, what are you wearing that covers you spiritually. I'm not talking about your clothing, I'm talking about something that is in your auric field that surrounds you, that either allows, the energy to flow in and around you, or it blocks it. And if you are blocked from receiving those kinds of messages, or having that kind of intuitive feeler about you in your auric field, it may not be because you've done anything, but it could be something in your surrounding space, your home, who is in your home with you, who your friendship circle is, who you're around at work. Um, these kind of things do play a very important role in your wellness, your well being, if you will. And so, as I read cards for you over the course of 2024, there's going to be a big focus on your well being and your wellness. That is the point of doing any of it. There's no point in talking about stories that don't play a role in making you better, healthier, making your life more vibrant, making your life more successful, making you a more spiritually well rounded person, making your home and family better, making your love experience better, making your self love better, meaning the way that you love yourself. So, with that being said, um, when I do my card reading, my post Christmas week wrap up, I guess we'll call it, maybe we'll just, it's going to basically be for the last week of 2023. That's going to be where I'm focused on what is the spiritual energy around us. What are we supposed to be tuning into? What would be beneficial for us to tune into for the upcoming year? These are general messages. This is for the general collective of people who would tune in to hear it. So how does that work? Probably there are other maybe card readers or spiritualists that you spend some time with on YouTube, and you might wonder, how does that work? It works because everything is about the intention for which we put forth to make anything change. Whatever your intention is, that's what you're creating. And it's good to be mindful of what we're creating. So I like to ask the universe to help me create the specific thing that I am trying to create. That makes me a co-creator. I'm not just coming up with something that means nothing to anybody else. I'm confident of that. I know it doesn't mean nothing to somebody else. If I'm experiencing something, that means other people are too. And I know this because other people this year did for me what I'm going to do for you this year coming up. And they weren't the most extraordinary human beings. They weren't the superstars of the planet. They weren't the influencers on YouTube who made this difference in my life. No, they were the most mundane and average people you could ever imagine. Just like myself, I'm pretty mundane and average. I sat here and walked around my home and thought to myself, what can I wear or do or say in my live stream on YouTube that will really capture people, that will really get them to want to care about what I have to say about anything? And then I thought, there is nothing. There's nothing except me giving you an update about my life and how I am, and you wanting to show up for it. That's all. There's nothing. There was nothing that made any of the great people of our time who are seen as advisors. There was really nothing that's made them stand out. Nothing and something and everything all at once. I mean, I work in a really unique place now where I can say this is true. The people that are the movers and shakers and the ones who make things happen in our in our subculture at my workplace, they are extraordinary people. They are. But they're only extraordinary because the people who see them as such recognize it. They're looking for it. They want to see that extraordinary quality in that person. And I think that's true of all people. I do. I think it's true of everybody. What you want to see in someone, you will see in them. Um, in fact, that was what I wished for a year ago in my best friend's kitchen, was that I would be loved and seen for who and what I am, and that I would experience that kind of love on a regular basis, and that it would fill all of the spaces around me, and it would fortify my ability to be the most loving, the most powerful human being I could be for the rest of my days. So that's kind of, those aren't the exact words exactly, but what happened was when I got back to my regular life, my regularly scheduled program, I went back home after my trip in January. And during the course of the next 6 months, I found myself questioning, am I married to the right partner who can bring me to the next level in my life? And, if I'm not, why am I here? What am I building? What are we doing? You know, what's the status of my family? What's the status of my community? What's the status of everything I'm building and creating? And as I looked around, I realized that many things were in need of some reshuffling, I guess. And in early summer, when my son was done with high school for the year, I made, excuse me, wow, it's like there are some spiritual like energies out there that don't want me to speak my truth. I got really choked up just there. I was fine. I was fine. I was going to tell you, and then it was like, don't say it. No, I'm going to say it. I wasn't happy. I made a change. I own a home with my husband. And I said, well, I can't stay living there. I can't stay in that space just because I made this commitment before the world fell apart due to COVID. And I made this choice so long ago. And since that point in time, since COVID, I had been through a series of difficult situations in my personal life. So going back to like 2020, right? Going back to, we'll just start at 2020. I felt like I had to take care of both of my kids. My daughter was graduating in 2020, graduating high school. She wasn't able to have a normal senior year like so many other kids, and that has had a really lasting effect on her psychologically, emotionally, physically, mentally. It was really hard, and I could do a whole conversation on how hard it was for kids graduating high school or like at certain stages of their life during 2020 and what it all meant. But I couldn't just worry about that one person in my life at that time. I also had my son who was, I think he was in the seventh grade at the time. And he required, a lot of extra assistance to be successful at school. And without being able to be in school, someone had to do it. So I stayed home and did that. Tried to get my daughter into college, tried to, make all the steps for all the people because, quite frankly, Lilac's a pretty successful girl. If I set out to do something, I pretty much complete it. I'm discovering that not everybody is that way, and that's okay. There was a time in my life when I was not a very high achiever either. I was like, man, we'll see if we get around to it. And so I can accept that some people just aren't feeling motivated to do something. That is totally fine. But it was around that time that I really started to, being stuck in your home with your immediate family and whatever series of things are going on in your own four walls. It's like a face-to-face conversation that you're having every single day about what am I putting into this and what's it for? I was putting so much effort into helping get my daughter into college. Why? Because she was a straight A student, an honors level student, a talented flute player, just a smart kid. She was always earmarked to go to college. Why wouldn't she go to college? But 2020 changed a lot of things. And I just was so stubborn. I just couldn't see it. I just kept pushing and pushing. And I have a husband who is an academic as well at that point. And he just was not accepting no for an answer. This kid needs to go to college. Why isn't she? And so suddenly the walls went up between me and my daughter, not because I was critical of her. I wasn't. I might have appeared very critical of her, but I was really just fearful. Fearful that if she didn't do this now, when might she do it? I don't know. And would it be me that failed her? I thought I had done as much as I could. But in the end, it is what it is, and people are going to make the decisions that are right for them. I decided to continue to focus on my son, get him through what he needed to get through, and that was fine. Eventually, things with my husband and I just continued to deteriorate. So by the time I came back from my best friend's house in January of 2023, I was ready for a new way of life. And some things just continued to happen. By midsummer, I said, I'm going to get my own space, which is where I am now. I had to separate. I had to separate from where I was living, and I had to move into a space where I could feel safe and where I could feel focused on the things in my life that were going to be needing a lot of attention coming up. And 2023 has been a huge year of adjustment for me. Huge year. I don't feel like I've come through it the same person at all. And I feel like a lot of you think you know me, but you really don't. And that's okay too. You can take the time to get to know me again or don't, whatever. Doesn't matter to me. Not in a rude way. I don't mean that in a rude way. It's just that this is my last year in my 40s. I know, hard to believe because I'm so cute and I don't look like I'm 49, but I'm 49. I've been 49 since August, which means that from now until my next birthday, that's all I got left. And I'm going to use it very wisely. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm going to use this year so much. It's going to be like that old expression about using all the parts of the buffalo. I'm going to use it all. I'm going to suck all of the marrow out of life, as Emerson would say. Or was it Thoreau? I think it was Thoreau, actually. I want to walk around Walden Pond again. I want to take in all of the experiences I've done in the past, but I want to do them with fresh eyes. I still want to go hiking in the mountains in New Hampshire where I live. I still want to drive a race car around a race car track. That's like definitely a long-term dream of mine. There are many things that I want to do and I will do. Because sucking the marrow out of life in 2024 is going to be really important to me. And how that impacts all of you who tune into any messages from me is that I'm going to be looking to help you capitalize on that too. If I'm giving advice from the cards, it's going to be focused on how can you live your best life? How can you get the most out of your experience? How can you thrive, not just survive? And if you are just surviving, how can we get you to the next level? That level might not be thriving, by the way. That level might be a new type of survival. I can say that because that's what I feel like I've lived since June of 2023 until now. So for the last 6 months, it's just been another type of survival. And that ends at midnight on December 31st, 2023 for me. No more survival mode. I just refuse. I refuse to just stay in survival mode. I'm not doing it. So anybody who's hanging out or lingering in the sidelines who isn't rooting for me 100%, you can leave. It's okay. I will not hate you. I don't care. I literally don't care. Any of you who may be casting, aversions or aspersions or evil eye or, worse towards me because of something I've done to you in the past, it's a lot of wasted energy at this point. I'm just going to let you know that it's a lot of wasted energy. So don't bother. Look for another victim because we're not doing that this year. It's just not happening. Sorry. So, in speaking of, now that we've covered the haters that exist in all of our lives, nobody is exempt from this. Haters exist everywhere. I have this wonderful new life, and my life is happy now. It's happier than it's ever been. I don't even remember the older versions of my life because they just don't make any sense. And I feel like I'm going to share this because somebody must need to hear about it. I don't know why this is the important message, but it's from my own experiences. So here it goes. My life now feels like everything that happened before last year was all just a dream I dreamed, kind of a nightmare. Not entirely a nightmare, though, because there were good things that came from it. I love my children. There are friends, family, and experiences that have been with me many, many moons, and those are not nothing. But in terms of like love and home and really family connection, I don't think I've ever really known what it was supposed to feel like until now. So I will be writing a blog about this. In the past, Lilac has been a famous blogger for the topic of true love. I have a couple of blogs that I wrote about true love and about twin flames that I still to this day think are some of my best writing ever. Maybe someday when I'm gone, or maybe someday when I'm really bored and have a lot of free time, I can go back through the writing and maybe publish it better so that more people can benefit from it. Maybe make it less, free flowing thoughts off the top of my head and more, you know, um, based on actual research, because during the course of my life, experiencing those things was research. And that research has brought me to the place I am now, where I understand what real love feels like, where I understand what self love feels like. Um, and I'm not trying to like sell myself as a life coach or something, but I think that the card readings that I'm able to give with this found knowledge, with this changed lifestyle stuff, with this understanding that I've now acquired, I think it could help a lot of people. And it will, as they see fit and as they reach out for it, and as I'm able to give it. I know that even now, as I record this reading, there are people out there who are either waiting for or hoping for a reading from me. And if I haven't gotten around to it yet, it is simply because I've been taking much better care of myself. And my doing that will allow me to actually help you better. You know, I can't, and nobody can. Nobody out there creating content on so large a scale is always able to take the best care of themselves, not unless they really do it with that mindful approach of, okay, now it's time for me to take time for me. I got to shut down the factory, or shut off the video camera or whatever. But yeah, I think in the year to come in 2024, you'll see a lot more of what goes on in my home and how it is who I am and all the different components hopefully people can learn from, but they will need to be unveiled a little at a time, not like all at once, which is why I'm not saying a whole lot about my life now, because it will become more apparent in time. um, and I will learn how to talk about it. That's not, it's not an easy thing. Failure, as I, will call it, is not an easy thing. Having failed at my marriage, which I put 7.5 years of time into. Granted, the last half of that year, that 7.5 years, that last 6 months of it was really me was slowly um, recreating a new path. So basically, what I'm saying is, yeah, maybe it was 7 years that I put into it, but that last 6 months before I moved out of my home was really spent trying to, well, at times trying to hold on to my dignity, and at times trying not to collapse the whole system, and at times just being full of doubt that I could feel better on the other side of a hard decision. Because I take things pretty seriously, and that can be a good thing, but it can also be a hindrance, especially when you're a creative and joyful person who just wants to see good and like peace and love and happiness a- around them. So it's not easy to, let all of that topple and wonder where you'll end up on the other end of that. It takes a lot of courage. And that being said, I don't think in the past I've ever acknowledged people who've had to go through this kind of stuff in their life. I'll even say my own mother. I never understood the difficulties that she had to endure in her life with the things that she had to go through and the decisions that she had to make. I know that there was a lot of criticism in my heart about what she was doing, or why didn't she do it this way, or shoulda, coulda, woulda. One of the words I have eliminated, all but eliminated in my vocabulary, is the word should. It is not my business to decide what you should have done, what they should have done, what he, she, or it should have been. No, it is not my place. It's not your place either, just for the record. Should is a stupid word that doesn't make any sense to anybody, because what should happen is just a hypothesis of what we believe based on some data. The only data that you really need to trust is what you feel in your heart, what you know is right for you. Even then, it's not going to be easy. And I hope I can be a guide for some people who need to do the thing that their heart is telling them to do this year. So that's not going to be easy. Anyway, I've barely taken any sips of my yummy coffee. So we're just about at 45 minutes live stream here, just talking about what's coming. And what I'm going to do is upload this live stream chat, if you will, and let you digest that for a bit while I prepare my cards and get ready for a reading. I look forward to it. I can't wait to see what we've got coming and what we've got going. I'm not going to lie. Some things got to go this year for new things to come, of course. Thanks so much for tuning in, you guys. As always, I'm Lilac. This is the Lilac Room. No more studio. I just work at my home now. And So many more great things to come, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate you. Namaste.